Welcome to another episode of Small School Big Tech. I'm Andrew Schwab, your co-host, joined by,
I'm Mike McBoo.
and we're back after a very long summer break.
Yes.
So we actually have a lot of catching up to do. But how was your summer, Mike?
It was fairly busy. Didn't go anywhere a whole lot during the summer. Just stayed at work most of the days, sometimes 6 days a week.
Yeah, I think there towards the end we were pulling like 7-day weeks. It was crazy. So I think when we last talked, we talked about some of the summer projects that we thought we were going to get done. Um, did you end up getting done everything you wanted to or needed to?
Yeah, not even close. We talked about upsizing our IP ranges. We
Hmm.
talked about getting our Wi-Fi components out and everything, and I think we talked a little bit about cameras
Yeah.
and security and stuff. So I didn't get anywhere halfway done what I needed to done. In fact, I put out a bid, and I'm having a company come in and finish up my cabling and access and camera points.
Oh wow. Yeah. Well, we ended up being in the same boat. We had a lot that we wanted to get done, including expanding our IP subnets to give us more space and um, adding more access points. And we had a whole network upgrade in the mix. And so I think it was a little ambitious. But we did get some stuff done. We're actually just right this week. We just finished our access point upgrade deployment. So as of right now, we have an access point in every classroom, which is kind of nice. Um, but yeah, the summertime just it's not enough anymore. It seems like it used. I remember when you had a good 3 months,
Oh yeah,
and now you're lucky if you get 6 weeks because of
summer school and everything.
summer school and everything else that happens.
Yeah, what APs did you post?
So I was on the fence for a while because I inherited an AeroHive access point um, infrastructure, and we were having all kinds of problems. But we had some very old access points, so I didn't want to throw them under the bus that too soon. Um, we went out to bid and ended up picking AeroHive, and we went with their AC unit, the AP230.
Hmm.
So we now have a mix. We have 60 of their 330s, which are they're pretty beefy N units, and then I want to say 230 of the AP 230s out, or roughly. We have about 200 out. We still have a few more in common spaces to put out, but they seem to hold their own in a room full of devices without any problem. The one thing we're working on now is Apple TV support and trying to get those dialed in because even in a room with an access point full of devices, we're seeing some Apple TV issues.
Hmm.
And we haven't, because they're not hardwired, so they're all running wirelessly. We haven't nailed down if it's Apple had a bunch of defective Apple TVs out there a while ago, and we may still have some of those. And then it may be that sometimes we find they're just on the wrong wireless network or they're not, they haven't been updated. But I think we still have a couple that are just flaky. So
Yeah. Once we hardwired all our Apple TVs, um, it really helped a
yeah.
lot. So
Well, that's my goal, but to do that, I got to pull cable. And pulling cable, as you know, you basically got to do a big bid, and you have to have the time to disrupt the classrooms. And so I think we're probably looking at next summer now.
yeah, that's one of the things we looked at. But when it was just myself and the maintenance guy um, pulling cable at the
Hmm.
different sites, trying to get our wires to the outside for their outside APs.
Hmm.
We already had our inside APs all set up and put out, but
Outdoor APs, yeah, we haven't even gone there yet. My main focus this summer was get an access point per classroom, and rather than pull new cable, we just back pulled an existing cable because it's just less
hmm
intrusive and faster.
hmm
In fact, I want to say we just did like 80 in 2 weeks.
hmm
So it's pretty quick. But the downside to that is we didn't get to pull the new cable for like Apple TVs and
hmm
we've been putting out 70-inch LCD TVs now into classrooms. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, I'm trying to go that route instead of projectors, believe it or not.
Well, that does make sense in a way if you're looking at. I mean, it depends on what you're trying to set up. I mean, if you don't have to put the mount in the middle of the ceiling, or if you're using a short throw, then you're looking at the longevity of the item. And
Yeah, well, I mean, my situation, unfortunately, elementary districts don't seem to have put projectors in kind of the way high school districts did.
mm-hmm.
So like when I got to LeGrand, the first thing we did was put projectors, ceiling mounted projectors in. So you have the electrical and the infrastructure and the mounts. All you have to do if you want to change out, projectors is just swap the projector, which is kind
Yeah.
of nice. I don't have any of that infrastructure here, so for me to do ceiling mounted projectors means that I've got to do electrical, which is expensive.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and not all of my classrooms are configured in such a way that we could do a short throw, because technically with a short throw we could probably reach one of the outlets along the wall. So really, the TV is a great option because, one, we can't install it on the learning wall anyway, which is where the whiteboards are. So we end up having to install it on the side, which is where there's always power and data. So it makes it really easy. The challenge is it's not on the learning wall. And so, talking to teachers about how they've been used to projecting directly onto their whiteboard with a little cart in front of it, which is kind of problematic anyway because the whiteboard has glare and it's not, um, it's just not an ideal situation. Whereas the TVs, they're pretty bright and you can put them anywhere, but again, it's just that classroom orientation issue that we're trying to resolve.
Yeah, I can imagine that, and especially when you're looking at an elementary classroom. Not, I would say not so much in the seventh and eighth grade, but definitely in the elementary classroom. You have your established areas, whether they're circles, whether they're contained groups, or how you're splitting up the classroom through your lessons.
Yeah. Well,
And
one thing we're working on too is putting flexible furniture in
mhm.
to these classrooms so that they can reconfigure them on the fly.
Yeah, that's something that is definitely a good conversation to have with that, to be able to see how the classroom workflow or process happens. And in elementary, you definitely have to have that on the fly.
Yeah, although I'm finding, for the most part, it looks like teachers have pretty much set up their tables in groups and they kind of leave them that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. But, we know we need mounted something, so either a projector or a TV, and we're actually going to be making a big push for that in the next, this winter we're going to do a group of classrooms, and then we're going to do the rest of them over summer.
So what are you, I mean, you're using the Apple TV and you're connecting to the Apple TV. I'm assuming you have a either the laptop or an iPad for the teacher to actually do the interactive component.
Yeah, funny you should say iPad or laptop. We actually, so I'm running my same playbook. Every teacher has a MacBook now. Most teachers have iPads. Every teacher will get a new iPad next summer when we do this big wired display push, because then we'll wire all the Apple TVs. I'm a little nervous about giving everybody an Apple TV right now just because of the connectivity challenges. So yeah, our interactive, I firmly believe that the interactivity should be in the tablet or the device and not the display, because once you put interactivity on the display, you double the cost.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're looking at an Epson interactive projector, you increase the cost by 50%.
Oh yeah.
So, it's just more expensive, and then that display obsoletes what, 5-7 years,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, a projector is probably 5 or 7 years, and then let's see. Oh, we're getting a request. Let me invite somebody in who knows way more about all this stuff than you or I, because Actually, I would like to hear his thoughts on this. Which one is he in? Okay, that one. There we go. All right. So anyway, it's just there's a lot of things to consider, and these learning walls that we have, which actually you guys didn't have in you guys don't have learning walls in LeGrand, but these built-ins with these sliding whiteboards, um, I just don't know what to do with them. They got these little tiny whiteboards on them. They're 4x6 and they slide and they're really low, which I guess is good for an elementary school, size kids, but you still, if you have kids right in front of it, they're blocking the bottom half. It's just a weird space to try to figure out how to do projection.
Yeah, well, you got to think about the. Hey, it's Larry. How you doing, Larry?
Why am I the only one with video?
Because we turned ours off.
Because this is an audio-only podcast.
Oh.
We go old school here. So just mute your video. It's just there's saves the audio, saves the bandwidth. There you go. These learning walls that we have. Okay. Which actually you guys didn't have. Oh, somebody's listening to us in the background. There's some.
Yeah, no, that was my dad.
All right, Larry, you're the expert. What should we be doing with these displays?
No, I was listening to you guys talk about putting in HD TVs versus projectors and interactivity on the teacher device or the handheld device versus the screen. So immediately I'm thinking those old school interactive whiteboards that we bought years ago, threw them on the walls. Teachers thought they were the greatest thing for about a week, and then I was pulling them down all summer long because they said, oh, it's too small, I don't like it, I never use it. I was throwing those out left and right, getting rid of projectors that went bad, putting up TVs because the time it took, especially when dealing with we had really old Hitachi model projectors that had the oddest throw ratios. So instead of changing mounts and destroying all that infrastructure and then redoing it and moving out, I said, forget it. I throw an HD TV on the wall, 70-inch as well. Those are just on that sweet spot now with the price and the size.
Mm-hmm.
And then all we do is run a single HDMI cable from it over to an area hopefully close to data and power, depending on, of course, where the teachers are. But we use these little switcher scalers that, excuse me, take several different inputs and send it all over the HDMI cable. So installing a TV now, I can install one by myself as long as the maintenance guys hung it on the wall for me in about 25-30 minutes.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm looking at. You gotta tell me you gotta send me what box that is that you're using for the inputs, because that's one thing we haven't solved yet.
Oh, it's so much better now. I actually stole it from a vendor who gave me a quote, and it was way too expensive for me to have them put in. Because like you guys, all summer long, I was just killing myself, working 10, 12-hour days trying to get this done. I'm like, there's just no way. So I started bringing in vendors here and there, but of course, that chews up my budget almost instantly.
I think we're paying like $300 a TV just for installation, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then when you talk about the liability, you got to make sure they cover, and every room, of course, is totally different. For example, at our middle school, they've got metal studs, that sheet metal C-beam stud stuff.
Yeah.
And so hanging them on the walls, yeah, we can do them. The maintenance guys showed me some different Molly bolts and all kinds of different ideas. I'm like, I'm just not all that comfortable hanging a TV on Furtex and sheetrock, I'm sure it's okay, but all it takes is a kid to pull on it and maybe rip it off or do something. I don't know. I just worry about that stuff. So at our middle school, we go with 2 smaller TVs, about 50 inches in size, link them together with an HDMI splitter, and then run, of course, the one HDMI over to our switcher scaler. And then,
are you finding the 2 TVs? Because I have a pilot classroom running with 2 TVs right now, and it's a portable. And you know how portables are narrow and wide, long. Well, depending on what type you have. Yeah, so that seems to work. Actually, the teacher really likes it at the moment because kids can see no matter where they're sitting.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of good feedback with that. Again, at our middle school, because they're long and wide. They're wide and narrow. They don't. They have the students kind of spread across where they're skinnier classrooms, but longer or wider. And so putting the 2 TVs seems to work a little better because now you have less disadvantaged students that they can't see from this angle, they can't see from that angle. It tends to work out a little better. I'd like to put a big, huge 70-inch TV in there, but the teaching wall is particle board and it's rather thin.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes me nervous. That's why I get these really tiny TCL 50-inch TVs. They're not tiny, I'm sorry, super light. They're very light. I just get our maintenance guys put plumber's tape on there and bolt that down. So hopefully, if we have an earthquake or something, they don't topple over and fall on somebody.
Right.
But
yeah, hopefully.
Inexpensive measures that I think we're
more
than proactive. It makes me a lot more comfortable leaving TVs up on the teaching wall.
All right.
And
I need the Larry Rigo parts list for audiovisual in the classroom.
Can I just push that in the comment tracker here on the side?
Yeah, sure.
There we go.
I'll have to remember to.
Let's see.
Oh, there's new stuff. What is the comment tracker?
It's a Q&A, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't even know how to get to it.
On the left side.
Oh, there's
Q&A.
Toolboxes,
okay. But I don't think that's going to work.
No, Q&A is disabled. You can drop it in the notes if you want, or the chat.
Oh, there we go. I see that. Sorry, I had my little toolbox open. There's the View HD splitter. It's amazingly only $140 more or less from Amazon.
Wow, look at that thing.
Super cheap, and all the inputs that you get on there. I mean, I know there's a lot of legacy stuff on there too, but the key thing is it's got 3 HDMI inputs plus a PC input with separate audio in case you don't have HDMI.
Right.
A couple of old school analog inputs and a couple of component inputs, which nobody uses component, but still, it's there.
Well, because here's one of the things. I've been buying a certain model 70-inch because it still has VGA input, and those are hard to find. And so I've been paying a little bit more than I probably would have otherwise.
Well, and this switcher scaler, by the way, takes any of those inputs and, of course, upscales them. So your old school VCR, and don't hate me, we still got VCRs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Plug those VCRs in, and they look fantastic.
Right. Well, VCR, we still have document cameras, and those are all VGA.
Yeah. Well, and two, the new TVs, they'll share an input where either you use HDMI 3 plus the audio input, or you have your AV1, and that's all.
Right.
You share an audio input. So if you plug in an HDMI device into 3, some of our cheaper TCL TVs now disable the AV input because you're using too many HDMI devices or whatever. So it can be a huge pain when you don't have enough. Whereas this little switcher scaler, you've got your 3 HDMIs, you got your old school analog, your regular VGA connection, plus you can also use multiple inputs on the TV if you had to.
I don't even know what model is TCL.
It's just a generic cheap. It's something like the Creative Life or something like that on Amazon. It's just a cheap TV that it's like bigger old school technology. So last year's HDTV model.
Yes.
So they can cut down the prices on the TV. So we get them fairly inexpensive.
See, this is why I love small school big tech, because it's all about the cheap.
That's right. And I am cheap.
I'm having a hard time being cheap, so I gotta get back to my roots. Cool. What kind of splitter? That's the last piece. You're using this?
Oh, that's right. I get them from, let me think. I think I get them straight from Monoprice.
Yeah, we've been using them.
They're very small. They take almost no power. Unfortunately, they do have power. Let me see. They were Monoprice. Because it's a straight splitter, so it doesn't do any crazy. Here it is. It doesn't do any crazy extra stuff, but it is at least right now. I think it's HDMI.
It's 3, right?
Oh, I was looking for the compliancy. It gives all the stuff about 1080p.
Yeah, if it's HDCP or not, because then if you put a Blu-ray on it, it's still got to work, right?
I believe so, but let me see. Well, let me send it to you anyway.
Just shoot me the model and I'll check it out.
There you go.
I actually think it's probably the same model that our vendor's been using to install and charging me, $300 for it. But anyway.
Probably.
Cool. So have you found, like, do you have it sounds like you don't have a standard for where you put stuff in the classroom, and that's kind of the thing I've been struggling with.
Oh no, I do. And in fact, this year we had over 30 new or 30 teacher moves, and in a district our size where we only have 140 teachers, 30 changes in personnel is a huge deal.
Yeah.
So we've had a major change, and teachers would go in and say, well, I want my TV in the corner. I'm like, no. It goes right in the center. We split the whiteboards, and that's where it goes. Oh, but I want it on this side. I can't want to turn my classroom that side. Okay, fine. Your kids are going to have to turn sideways to watch TV, and that's it.
So do you have fixed learning walls already, or does it
We
depend
put
on
it basically because see, we have buildings that are 90 years old, right?
Mm.
And so I have the challenge of these buildings have been modified, insanely over the years. So what I kind of do is I go into each room and I say, look, this is where the room is set up to be centered. Most rooms are square, the old ones.
Mm-hmm.
They're fairly square. But the newer ones that are, wide but narrow one way, I go, look, you've got to put the TV that center right there, or, the dual TVs at the middle school. Otherwise, you're going to have kids that are not going to see it. And, I've upset a few teachers, but it gets down to the point, it's like, I am not going to tear a TV off the wall every time we have a personnel change.
Right.
That's the standard. That's where it goes. And when we first did it, we used to run multiple cables to the TVs, VGA, RCA, HDMI.
Mm-hmm.
I remember even running S-video cables. And that got really expensive, and it would take a good 4.5 hours just to get everything all squared away. I was like, no, I'm not going to spend that kind of time.
Yeah, so now you've got the one box, and you can run it wherever you want.
Right, and so we also run the 50-foot HDMI cables, which is like at that theoretical limit of them.
Mm-hmm.
But we run those 50-foot cables, and I put enough of the service loops right above the workstation, so later on if we had to, not that I want to, we could always move the teacher workstation. But there's not a whole lot of infrastructure in these old buildings.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I've been doing slowly. But we got teachers that their desk has to be here because that's where the 2 network drops and 1 power outlet are in the entire classroom.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Well, one thing I've been looking at too is, they've got the HDMI over Cat5 extenders, and so you run 2 Cat5 cables or Cat5e, and then you put 2, one on each end, and you can run full HDMI across it, which gets rid of the distance limitation. I've been finding that with our Apple TVs, if you plug them in to an HDMI cable that's over 15 feet, they don't like it.
No, there are some end devices that maybe they're just not pushing the right power or something, but yeah, I've seen that too. That's why, well, that's one of the advantages too of that UHD thing.
Yeah.
With a 50-foot cable, there's no problem. I have yet to see.
Yeah, because it's pushing. It must be pushing a good enough signal down that cable to.
For sure. Well, because remember, I'm taking a 50-foot cable, putting it into an HDMI splitter, which of course theoretically renews your limitation,
Right.
and then running the 2 cables out of there 15 feet each.
Right.
Excuse me. So I have yet, knock on wood, to have an issue with that kind of setup, and it works. So far, it's working fantastic.
All right. So I'm going to go build a Larry Rigo model classroom now and see how all that comes together.
There you go. Just don't run them over the ballasts.
No. Yeah, parallel works the best, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
Question. On your wood shop or your ag shops, are you putting any TVs in there?
I have yet to. All of our wood and ag shops right now are equipped. The wood shop has an old school tube TV that they're using, but all they do is show videos. The rest of it, thankfully, is actually woodworking. The other ag shops, they currently have projectors already, but they're fairly large buildings. So if I were to put TVs in there, there'd have to be multiple large TVs. Otherwise, again, we have 10-foot screens in there, and the rooms are so large that those 10-foot screens are just right. In our home ec room, which is basically 2 classrooms where there's no wall between them, so it's a huge classroom. I have the TVs right now ready to go. I have yet to install them, but we're putting 2 70-inch TVs because the room is just so big.
Well, No, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm stumbling over issue of putting one in a wood shop area that's also used as a classroom for the metal shop and the for the theoreticals or for the direct instruction going on in the classroom. But I'm looking at dust and that sort of stuff.
I think your best bet would be a TV. I think that would be a little more tolerant than a fan pulling air over a hot bulb.
That's what I was thinking. So,
Well, so we're actually in the process of redoing one of our old shop wings at one of the middle schools, and we're gonna turn it into basically 4 maker lab spaces, like Tinker Labs, STEAM labs, and they're really big. I mean, they're oversized classrooms. And what I was thinking I would do with those is, I'm I'm really looking towards putting a TV in each corner, um, kind of up high, rather than have a central focus point, because who knows in a shop class where the kids are going to be or what they're going to be looking at, right?
What about dual projectors, screens back to back?
Yeah, I just,
That would look cool.
I know. I'm just not big on projectors right now, just because
No,
of,
I hear you. I can't stand them. I just was trying to think outside the box, something cool. But yeah, TVs each corner. What else are you gonna do if the room is huge?
you know, what's funny. I've got one demonstration classroom right now where we've got two 70. It's a portable. There's two 70-inch TVs on one wall with a whiteboard in the middle and a projector on the other wall. And the teacher doesn't use the projector anymore. She just uses the two TVs. So
You can't beat the brightness and the clarity of an HD TV, especially these new ones. 70 inches at 1080p is, for now, really, really nice.
yeah. Well, speaking of that, so I'll transition us over. Actually, I have a 4K monitor sitting on my desk at work at the moment. I know, I know.
must be nice.
I bought the Dell 4K, and
How are those golden sidewalks working out for you?
Yeah.
hey, I'm just experimenting. We're looking to do we're looking to do uh, kind of lobby signs, information sign systems. So I've been looking at different displays. Anyway, I can't use it as a regular monitor at the native resolution because everything is so small. It's ridiculous.
You got to be using a newer operating system. You
Well,
got to get
I'm in
Mac
Mac.
or Windows 8.
I'm in Mac OS 10 on my 15-inch Pro, so it'll support the display, but I have to scale it down to a lower resolution just to be able to use it. So I don't think 4K is going to be coming to the desktop anytime soon. It's
Well,
a ridiculous resolution.
I was talking to the Apple rep, and he basically said we're talking about the Apple Pro for one of our classes, and they said the only reason you get 4K is if you're doing video in 4K.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. I can't even read the text at 4K,
Yeah. So it's like
and I'm
why?
sitting a foot away from the monitor. It's just crazy.
So why buy a Pro when you can just do the same thing in iMovie and for what you're doing, especially
Yeah.
for
Is it time to upgrade your lab already?
yeah, it is next year.
Wow.
We're doing the actually I'm doing another UberMix lab for the careers in education class in 15. So we're still running UberMix
Hmm.
on those, and UberMix over in Granada as much as I can. And then
Are you running any Minecraft?
no one's interested in that, so I'm not going to push it.
Larry, are you running Minecraft?
And we had a couple teachers that went to that training that thought it might be something cool. They came back. They were like, "Yeah, that was kind of neat," but didn't really, like Mike said, it's like, They didn't really see an educational use for it just yet.
Oh wow. I've got several teachers that are running it and want to run it, and unfortunately it does not run on Chromebooks, and with the recent Microsoft acquisition I'm wondering if it ever will. Um, so we've been running it on UberMix, and that was one of our summer projects that happened like super late. Um, and we bought we got 100 of the first 1,000 B115 Acer units to ship into the country. And man, we have been having nothing but problems with some of the units with bad trackpads. So we sent 2 carts out, and I think so far probably 8 or 9 have come back with the trackpad. The mouse goes crazy. It's like you can't use it. It bounces, top to bottom of the screen, moves all over the place, and kids get super frustrated with all that. So that was our first foray into UberMix, and it did not go very well. And it wasn't UberMix's fault. It's definitely a hardware slash BIOS firmware problem, but kind of frustrating that that was kind of going to be our footstep in the door, and it just Acer kind of let me down on that one.
Yeah, I'm looking at all-in-ones for the Ubermix lab. Got about 32, so I want to do all-in-ones. I'm waiting for the vendor to ship me a model to take a look at.
We did Chrome bases in one of our middle school labs. They love them. Of course, they went from N computing to those, so yeah, I've got N computing all over the place. They call them thin clients, but that's kind of a misnomer.
Yikes.
So we're furiously working to get rid of those. So the other fun thing I did over summer is we pushed out 35 Chromebook carts.
And who put your carts together for you?
Kids for $10 an hour. Woohoo!
Kids. Oh, I had kids put our first 5 carts together. It was a wiring mess.
So these kids are actually pretty good. They're actually they're employees' kids, and
Okay.
you know, over high school age, over 18.
Gotcha.
They did okay. There were some quality control issues. You know, some things didn't get done the way they're supposed to. But for the number of carts we put out and the time that we put them out in, and for the cost, it actually went pretty well.
What kind of Chromebook did you use?
Acer C720.
So did you get the fat power packs that had a hard time sitting in the back of the tab charge carts?
No, we did not.
That was a lot of fun. Now they've changed their
the tab charge. I'm doing the tab charge 2. What is that? CT2.
CT2. Is that the 40 unit?
Yeah, the 40 unit. It's smaller. The other one was just too big. It was like incredibly bulky. And then, so we went through an evolution of carts. When I got to the district, they were buying only the Bradfords, the 36 unit Bradfords for like
solid steel,
$1,900 or something crazy. But you know, good electronics, decent cart. But problem is, some of our classrooms needed more than 36, and so I went looking around for carts. I talked to Jim Klein. He recommended Spectrum, which I think I'd used at LeGrand. So we tried a couple models of Spectrums, the 32 unit for the elementaries and the 40 unit for some of our larger classrooms. Everybody says they look like medical carts, and they kind of do. And then I forgot to get them with timers, so we had to go back and add timers. So originally they were really cheap, and then when we added timers, they crept up towards Bradford pricing. And then right after I ordered all of those carts, the Aver guys came by and said, "Hey, look at our new CT2. It's been out for a month." And I was like, "You couldn't have told me that, 2 weeks ago." So anyway, we just put out 4. We've been using one for about a month, and I really like them. I mean, they've got the smart electronics built in. The electronics warranty is 5 years. They did some really nice things like the pull-out shelves. The power cord is just a regular computer power cord, so if the end gets broken off, like they always do, we've got a box full of these things. We just go replace it.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
And then
I like their timers are fantastic too. I like how you can configure just about everything on them.
Mm-hmm.
It saves us a lot when our power, for our 90-year-old buildings, we have 4 classrooms, each with 1 outlet, and they share a 15-amp breaker.
See, that's the other thing. So we were looking at, because we're actually doing a 3rd through 5th deployment. Everybody's gonna have a cart. Well, I said, well, why are we even doing carts? Because the carts aren't gonna move. So I started looking at the cabinets, and I priced out the cabinets, and the cabinets are all dumb, right? They don't have smart electronics in them. So if you do a cabinet for 36, you're charging all 36 all the time. And I was worried about power. And so that's why I think we're just going to stick with these carts. And also, the cabinets are more expensive. And they take up a lot of space. So when we're done with the carts, once we get to a one-to-one take-home situation, we can just roll them out, and hopefully there's a market for used carts by then. But we won't be stuck with these cabinets, bolted in.
Yeah, they asked me the same question when it came to the carts. They said, well, how are we going to share them? I said, no, the carts are not for mobility. The carts are for charging. That was it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's easier for us to deploy too, because we can deploy.
Unless they want to have 20 surge protectors lined up against the wall with a cabling nightmare.
Right. Yeah, so I think same thing. It came down to I really need the smart electronics, and the most cost efficient way to do that is right now is through the cart. So I know Mike doesn't have carts anymore because he's one-to-one iPads, but
No, we got carts in our main IT room, and they're basically there for charging. So when we get the iPads over the summer, we keep them charged up. And
do
we
you
issue.
have do you have to sync anymore, or can you sync everything over the air?
No, that's part of the DEP fiasco that we went through. We're still syncing. We're still using configurator, one MacBook connection.
Wow, you're doing it old school. So what happened with DEP? Because I heard that was supposed to solve all the problems in the universe.
Well, the main problem is they required a Apple ID for every single user, which we now find out through the threads on SETPA list is that you can have one Apple ID per 99 devices or 100 devices per whatever your iCloud limit is.
Hmm.
And so we have several people seem to be using that component. So it gives me pause to think about returning to the DEP. I was trying to do my own MDM, but people are having good luck with the free version of Meraki. I am using Meraki, so I might as well, try that out. But for now, we're just pushing it out. It's not that big of a deal. It actually is helping us a lot in the fact that when we update our apps, we don't have to update to iOS 8 yet because it has a feature in there that says don't update.
Hmm.
But if the students update it accidentally off our network, then it doesn't
Yeah,
impact them either.
isn't there's a way to block the update though, isn't there?
Yeah, but you have to block Apple's update
Oh.
on your firewall or your filtering system. And
Hmm.
after a week, I stopped doing that, and just I haven't had any problems like we did with 7.
Yeah, no, even because we're using Absolute MDM, which actually Absolute somehow gets around. I wonder if it is that 100 user limit, but we don't even use iCloud. Absolute actually does all the app management for us, so we can use one Apple ID and then push out to multiple iPads over the air. But um, it costs money, and yeah, I know I can actually afford to buy it, which is nice. But um, we haven't seen the issues that we did with 7 with our MDM solution breaking, which has been nice. But I don't know. We only have about 1,000 iPads out right now, so it's not horrible.
Like I said, we only have about 550 iPads, 60 iPads out. So having
That's your whole campus. I meant to say, out of 5,500 kids, I only have 1,000 iPads or something like that, including staff. So.
yeah, so doing it manually is not that big of a deal for me.
Hmm. But you shouldn't have to. I thought they were going to fix all this.
Yeah, well,
At some point, are they going to make you go to DEP and get rid of VPP?
probably.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a look at that here in October.
And you guys, you decided to stay on iPads, right? Because you were looking at iPads or Chromebooks at some point.
We did decide to stay on iPads. There's a couple reasons why we decided to. One is that the cost per iPad dropped down to about $380 a piece.
What model are you buying?
iPad 4s now.
Yeah.
So about $380 a piece for an iPad 4. You add the $32 case on top of that, right? So you're running about $415 total per device. We're not getting insurance. We're not getting the warranty for the Apple, but we're pushing for students to purchase $34 insurance at 0 deductible each year. We've had when you take a look at it, the ease of use and the multiple things that can be done on an iPad outweigh the keyboard factor. And so it was the battery life, the ease of use, the multiple things can be used within the classroom, and this is both from a teacher and a student perspective.
Well, and you'd already built a workflow and a whole
And so the
environment
workflow
around it.
works around that, but then you take a look at the cost, and the cost is almost equal to
I wouldn't
Chromebooks.
go that far.
I would.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say what I'm paying for a Chromebook on air, but it's way less than $380.
Well, your price break is significantly going to be lower than ours because you have more students. but more devices, and where my price break isn't going to be that great. In fact, Larry would probably get a better price break than I would because of the amount of students.
You can't price break Apple though. I mean, you have no room with them. They just give you what they give you, and you're done. So.
Yeah. So when I take a look at it now, this year was actually a really interesting year in the fact that our seniors that graduated last year got to purchase their iPads for $50 a piece.
Did they?
Yeah, and they did. And with exception of the ones that had theirs broken or not usable, right? We had about 121 seniors purchase theirs. And the expectation of life on that is for at least a good year, maybe 2 years beyond.
Well, who knows? We're still running some iPad 1s, apparently.
So we have 4 years on our iPads without a very, I mean, when you take a look over the amount of iPads we have had, the amount of time we've had them, the breakage on those iPads and the loss on those iPads is actually significantly very, very low.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I think it does come down to workflows and what you're used to and what do you want to do. Because Larry, what are you guys standardized on? Have you gone Chromebooks or are you doing something else?
Well, this is our first year at our middle school. We got about 700 UberMix netbooks, a mixture of our oldest ones are the Asus 1011CXs, and those are just horrible. That first gen was not the best. The next generation, though, we got the Acer V5s and now the B113s. The V5s have a flimsy LCD panel, so we got a lot of breakage on those. But the B113s seem to hold up a lot better. They are effectively the same unit inside, but they seem to have a much beefier case, thank God. But we're at about 700 on that school site. Every student is now this year 1-to-1, 1 AP per classroom. Things seem to be working fairly smooth. And the high school, we're at about 450 Chromebooks. We don't have the money to just jump in and do, for example, all freshmen, then all sophomores, whatever, like we did at middle school. We've got too much intermixing of students and grade levels in different classes. So we had to go with something that we could, put in, let's say, for the first year was all English and all math to kind of support Common Core testing.
Right.
Then we went this year with social sciences, science, and I can't think of the other one right now, but we're at about 450 Chromebooks. That way, as kids walk in, they grab a Chromebook, sit down, they grab their assigned Chromebook to kind of handle, to kind of mitigate that breakage factor where kids now are responsible for their device.
Yeah.
But they can grab a Chromebook, sit down, flip it open, and within a minute and a half, they're ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. The sharing aspects of a Chromebook are awesome. I mean.
Well, and we've already been Google District, Google Docs before Drive, that kind of stuff. For this is going to be our 4th year. So
Google Docs before Drive. Soon it'll be Google Docs before Drive 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. The new interface is whatever. It's still web-based.
I just did a training on the new interface, and I'm like, I have never used it, and so, I was like, well, let's just switch to the new one, and then we started going through it, and they're trying to make it more like a desktop interface. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you figure if it's on a Chromebook, you get that desktop feel, on a internet-only device. So I see why they're doing it. I mean, how many trainings have you gone to where they say the best thing is that they're always changing, the worst thing is that they're always changing, kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
So you know what? It's one of those things where it's like, I'm just going to deal with it because there's nothing I'm going to do, and in 6 months they'll change it anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, they're always changing. What model Chromebook are you using?
We have the C720s. Almost all of them are C720s. We had one teacher that started up her own little grant that we have, an internal grant for our school district. So she got to 710s, which are okay, but they're basically Acer V5s that run Chrome.
Right, and the battery's not so hot unless you put a big one in.
Well, they have the big battery, so they have that extra little foot on the back. So they're okay, but I like the C720s better. They seem a lot more.
I think the C720 is like almost the perfect machine, and I wish when they came out with the B115 it looked more like a C720, because C720 is built really well. It feels really good. Although I will say I just I demoed the Asus C200, which I think it looks a lot like the Dell, and I really like the Dell hardware build. I think Asus, I don't know if they're OEMing them for Dell or what, but it looks almost the same. But it's a nice, I really liked it. And so I just, for the 2 middle school purchases that I just did, we're actually going to go with the Asus C200.
About the same price?
Yeah, I got them down to the same price. So I don't know if I'm supposed to say that on air either, but
Well, they
it's
look
the
pretty
same.
good.
It's basically the same internals. The only difference I can see is the C200 has a glossy screen, which I do like the matte screen for our fluorescent environments. But I didn't want to get stuck. Okay, I know. I think we all got burned by. Remember when we all had those wonderful Dell GX270s, and that was like
I,
the
I
majority of
still
our
have those.
desktops?
I
Hmm.
still have GX270s.
Remember when they all stopped working and within about the same time frame?
Yeah, because
Oh,
the capacitor blew up on the
Yeah.
main board.
oh
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So I get nervous when I see that. So and plus with the Chromebooks, because it's always a moving target on support. If you remember, Google's support on a Chromebook basically starts from the date of release, the first date of sale, not when you buy it. So the C720s have been out, I think, a year now. So if you buy them, you've got 4 years of support left. Whereas if you buy a new model today that just came out, you've got 5 years. So it's a moving target. So I think I'm always going to be having a mixed set of devices depending on when we're buying and what we're buying for. So I just wanted to get into that habit and start doing that. Because a Chromebook, realistically, it's just an endpoint to the Google Cloud. It's not, as long as the hardware is good, doesn't really, there's not a lot of features that you're going to be comparing, right?
Well, back in the day when you had to manually image machines and push them out, it was almost a requirement to have them all as similar as possible so you could deploy them easily.
Yes.
Nowadays, I totally agree. It doesn't matter what hardware you have out there. You got to push out Windows PCs or Chromebooks or whatever, but differentiated hardware is number one right now. Like you said, if all of a sudden, your C720s come up with some kind of bug where the trackpad stops working, you now have an entire fleet of Chromebooks that's totally dead until the patch comes out.
Right. Yeah. So, and like I said, the Asus actually is a nice little unit. I'm actually getting the 13-inch model for some of my staff because it's the first 13-inch Chromebook I've seen that is nice enough to do that. So
You didn't like the Toshiba 13-inch?
no, I have two of them in my well, I have one in my office. I don't know where the other one went, but no, flimsy, they flex, just not a nice build. Feels cheesy too, like plasticky.
Hmm.
So, and the Asus C300, I believe, is about the same price.
I do like Asus's build quality on most of their stuff. I know our first gen netbooks, they're internal wise, they're just dogs. They're slow, they're old. 3-year-old netbook is a 3-year-old netbook. But man, those cases, they stand up to a huge amount of punishment.
Hmm. I'm sorry, Mike. We're talking about Chromebooks and things because you decided to go iPads. Oh
Yeah.
well.
It doesn't matter. I mean, we constantly look at it, and there's factors that build in that are way above the technology. We already come to a conclusion early on, and I'm talking about the admin team, to a conclusion that it doesn't matter what is in the student's hands, as long as something is in the student's hands, but the biggest factor is what is the teacher doing in the classroom with the task.
Exactly.
And
Making digital worksheets. What do you expect?
the main thing about what is in the student's hands and what the teacher's doing with the task is, as technology people, especially in a small school, how are we supporting that teacher and that technology workflow? And how can we also step up and say, you know what, sometimes that use of technology that you're trying to use is not the best use for the curriculum that you're trying to, or the standard you're trying to meet, and that becomes a different discussion. But the whole push is technology, 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 and then with all this push with the Common Core testing and one-to-one, I'm afraid that there's a lot of technology that's going to go out there that, and the PD is not going to support the technology in the classroom and more to the point, the technology to support the student task and student learning.
Well, we're doing a ton of PD. Like
Yeah, it has to
PD,
be.
crazy amount of PD. I think we're very fortunate. A lot of it is focused around technology integration. Even our Common Core based PD has technology embedded. So, but I agree. You know, professional development. I think a lot of districts who jumped on Chromebooks early last year to get ready for the test are probably this year spending some time, hopefully, thinking about how they're actually going to use them in the classroom. Although I heard a rumor somewhere that there's a district that said they were just going to put them in a closet and wait for the test to come around again. But
That's always nice to hear.
yes, hopefully that's not true.
That's like when I go through and clean out classrooms or help teachers when they can't identify old technology. I go, oh, that's a brand new iBook that's never been used. Oh, yeah, I got that for a training in 1997. I'm like, wow, great use.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of the things we're really trying to focus on is using the technology in the classroom, because we're going to put out a ton of technology, and we do want to make sure that it gets used and used appropriately. And so we're doing a lot of teacher training around that. And we ran our own EdTech Day, and we're going to run another one here in April for a district-wide. Our district-wide PD has turned into a Q conference, basically. And so that'll be fun. So yeah, it's kind of important. So, what do you guys think of E-Rate 2.0? How's that going to affect you?
I never got E-rate money anyway, so maybe I'll actually get some.
Well, you must have been getting Priority 1 stuff for your telecom, and that's all going away now, right?
Well, not all of it. We're getting, we still get our internet connectivity discounted the same way. All of our 2 OptiMan circuits will be discounted. We're going to have to migrate away from POTS lines, though, because they're going to start phasing that out. So we'll have to look into something else that's supported. Hopefully they'll support T1 PRIs. Otherwise, I don't know how we're going to facilitate getting discounts on our regular phone line, or at least kind of telephone service.
Well, yeah, I think that's the whole point, is they want to do away with discounts on regular telephone. So I'm not sure how that's going. I mean, I know for us it's a big hit because my district went to hosted VoIP last year, and so E-Rate no longer will cover hosted VoIP, and they're going to start phasing down the discount rates over the next
5 years.
20%, yeah, 5 years, 20% off over the next 5 years, so per year.
Yeah, we got approved for hosted VoIP this year, so we're going to go ahead and sink into it, and over 3 years save the money for to pull it back on premise, and then just pay for the internet connectivity through our OptiMan, which we are going out to bid.
Are you looking to go for a gig, or?
We're going for a gig, but we have a total of 3 providers now instead of the 1. So we'll see who comes in cheaper and makes it back to the COE.
Well, that would be interesting.
3 providers, man. What kind of companies are out there for you guys?
Comcast, AT&T, and I can't remember the other one. I was talking to Vern the other day about it.
Man,
See, that's
I
the
wish I had
benefit.
multiple providers.
Yeah, I know. You rural guys, that's the benefit of being in the city. I won't tell you how much. Well, I could tell you how much. So for a gig connectivity to all my sites and to the county, it's like $1,000 a month, something like that.
Oh my God!
Well,
I think one of our OptiMan
per
is
site,
$5,000, and the other one is $6,000 a month.
Oh yeah, no, I can do a gig for $1,000 a month.
Well, as long as they keep providing E-Rate, then we're going to keep with OptiMan. But
Well, and I think that was the FCC or the FCC's point, is they wanted to focus on broadband and wireless, and so wireless is interesting. And they're reducing. It's no longer 90%. They're going to go with a $150 per kid cap and an 85%. And so I don't qualify for Priority 2 or Category 2 now, whatever they call it. But the hosted Wi-Fi thing looks kind of interesting because it's basically Meraki, right? I mean, that's what Meraki does.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering how the other Wi-Fi vendors are going to respond to that one.
Well, Ruckus is offering hosted. They announced that in March. I want to say March.
So no more need for a controller on site?
They have both. They have it's their enterprise hosted services, so they can do both, and plus their And the big thing is that their APs don't lose configuration if their on-premise manager goes down.
Yeah, that's fine.
How's
Meraki
it
doesn't
going to work
actually
with
do that.
multicasting and that kind of stuff?
It's just the controller for the configuration pushed out to the devices.
So it's basically the way Aerohive works, because what
Yeah.
Aerohive does is Aerohive has a controller module. We actually run ours internally. I know I'm the cloud guy, and I just said that out loud. But so we run a controller box, and all it does is push configs to the APs. The APs have all the smarts built into them, and they do radius on the AP, they do authentication on the AP, they do everything on the AP. And the only thing that box or the cloud hosted piece does is configuration pushes and analytics. So it sounds like Ruckus is kind of similar to that.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm curious about Ruckus is one of their components being able to track devices, even if the device isn't connected to the network.
Was that like through Magic or something?
No, it's through the signals it's putting off. So if your phone's pushing out a cellular signal, it'll still track the device on campus. And I'm interested in implementing a test feature of that, just to see where the hotspots are around campus. See trend over time the movement and flow of students and people on campus. But it's a pretty interesting feature.
Yeah, I think once you get to an AP per classroom, it doesn't matter what AP you have. That's my personal opinion. The rest of it comes down to how much you have to do to configure and manage it.
As long as your APs can understand power levels and they automatically adjust to that, because man, when we first did our deployment 1-to-1 or 1 AP per classroom with Cisco stuff, I did not have a checkbox ticked, and so those little IPs were pushing out power like you wouldn't believe. You go to get a Wi-Fi analyzer, you're like, I can't even read this. It's just a solid block of color. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, no, the auto sensing and auto balancing channels and power is very important in a high density environment.
Yeah, that's, I mean, if you had to go in and check off on each single AP, even with the small school I have, and keep on checking up on it, I would not be very happy.
No, there's no way you can manage that.
You need to manage it. So we ran into something. So we pushed out a policy to limit rates on users, and so we did a student and a staff policy. And I think we hit like 3 meg for students and 5 meg for staff. And as soon as we did that, and we only did it at one site, you know, being responsible, Apple TV started to suck, which I thought was kind of interesting because 5 megs is a decent video stream service. And so we removed the policy, and Apple TV miraculously started working fine again. And so now we've got policy in place which is 8 meg and 12 meg. And Apple TV's okay, but that just seems like a crazy amount of bandwidth to me.
Well, I mean, per AP, if your Apple TV is wireless, which AP is it connecting? Are you specifically telling it you can only connect to that AP?
Well, no, I mean we have an AP per room, so theoretically it should be connecting to the AP. But what I'm saying is, if I'm a user and I only have 5 megs and I'm trying to mirror to an Apple TV, apparently that's not enough bandwidth.
Well, when you limit your bandwidth, how did you limit? Was it exactly 5 megs per user per client?
Per user, yeah, per client.
Well, think of a hub in that sense. So you may have limited it, but if you how many people you have connected.
But what I'm saying is, once I remove the limit, everything worked fine. So it doesn't matter how many people I have connected. It seems to me that the Apple TV mirroring over Wi-Fi needs more than 5 megs to work.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy.
It does need that because we have an instance, and it doesn't matter if it's hardwired or wireless, because even on our hardwired, because we are throttling our throttling our student networks down to 2 megs. Now I've increased the student network because of the amount of APs we put out, and now our students are having no audio sync cables sync issues with video on the when they're hooking up to their Apple TVs in the classroom. And before they used to have audio, so we say we can't use audio. You have to plug it in to use audio. So.
So it is a bandwidth hog, basically.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's. I'm not sure what they're trying to go up and down, but it's a lot.
Well, we are setting our Apple TVs now to do 720 instead of 1080, so that's hopefully helping. But yeah, the other issue we're having is how do we do streaming from the Chrome books? And so we've got some Chromecasts out there now, but I just don't think the Chromecasts are on the 2.4 gigahertz channel with they just don't seem to have the same kind of robustness. And I also think that maybe on those C720s and certainly on our Samsung C3s, I don't think they have the horsepower to drive a Chromecast, is what it looks like to me anyway.
Well, the only feature I've seen that's been able to do from a Chrome or from a device like a Linux system to Apple TV, the only way you can do that is to do YouTube sharing, and that's only for YouTube. Stumble across that accidentally.
Well, I mean, that's all you need is YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we do a lot of mirror casting right now. A lot of our teachers have been getting those Asus T100 tablets and run Windows 8, and those Miracast boxes are fantastic. It's my favorite part about them is that they don't use your Wi-Fi network. It's a one-to-one ad hoc network between you and the device. So
well, I'm hoping iOS 8 fixes that problem too.
Well, Apple TVs are going to be pushing out the one-to-one type device, but I can't remember if it's Bluetooth or.
It's iOS 8. There's a Bluetooth discovery, and then there'll be an ad hoc.
There's an ad hoc between the two.
Sorry, go ahead, Larry. I interrupted you.
That's my favorite part right now. So right now we have a few Apple TVs here and there, and they're all right. We put them on our staff network, so there's no limitations, no policy wise, so they're all right. The Chromecast, we have a couple out there. They're okay. Like you said, the power just isn't there on the 710s or the 720 Acer Chromebooks to screencast. If you're just going to use it as a remote control for YouTube, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But those Miracast devices, I mean, on a low-powered device like the Asus T100, I mean, I would consider those not very CPU heavy. But even with those, the mirror casting capabilities are just fantastic. There's a little bit of a lag, just like with an Apple TV and an iPad. There's that little bit of a lag there. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you're going to use it as your primary monitor for your workstation. But for a teacher walking around the classroom with a mobile tablet, it just works out fantastically. And we've had very, very, very great success with all but a couple of devices. Excuse me. There's just a couple that we haven't had. I don't know if it's maybe some bad Wi-Fi in the area or something, but we've just got a couple devices out there that we've swapped devices and still the teacher can't connect. Changing tablets, but
we've got that with some Apple TVs. I wish these things would all get along. It's annoying to have to run three different wireless mirroring technologies to support everybody. I mean, we've been putting AirParrot on our Windows machines so that they can connect to the Apple TVs, but it would really user-friendly if they just all worked together. I know that would never happen.
Another cool thing with the Miracast boxes is, like, I've got a Galaxy S5 phone. A lot of Android devices can use Miracast technology as well. So my phone, I can walk into a room, hit a button, and my phone can display whatever, high quality video as well. Galaxy tablets. There's a lot of Android support for Miracast. It looks fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Apple will never get on board with that, but well. They want to sell Apple TVs, and we just bought MacBooks for all of our teachers. Well, MacBook refresh. They already had MacBooks, but we want the MacBook Air for everybody. So
how are they liking the fact that they don't have the CD-ROM anymore?
Oh my goodness! You would not believe the amount of emails I've been receiving lately. Apparently CDs and DVDs still have a lot of use in K-8 classrooms.
Well, they have a lot of use in in 912 too. So
that's because they got a lot of CDs from their textbooks from 1983. They want to load their PDF textbook material on.
I mean, what else am I going to do? They don't sell Macs with CD drives anymore, not unless you want the old ones.
Yeah.
So, aren't you due for a refresh, Mike? What did you do?
We got one more year, so 2016. I'm gonna say we're gonna do the Mac Lab first, and then we'll do the teacher MacBooks.
Yeah, I mean, we're just doing Airs because when I looked at the price comparison to the MacBook Pros, there wasn't really much. I didn't see the benefit. You can't get a CD-ROM on a Pro anyway, a Pro
Yeah.
Retina, and the Retina screen. Actually, believe it or not, I've had problems just with connectivity with the Retina to projectors. It just sometimes the resolution goes all wonky on you because it's trying to scale it.
Yeah.
So we decided to go Airs, and the teachers actually they like the lightweight. I mean, that's not a downside.
Well, now you're talking about Mac, so I'm going to leave. No, but seriously, gentlemen, I really enjoyed talking to you guys. I'd stay here all day if I could, but I got to be somewhere at 10. I should have stopped talking a long time ago. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks
See you later, Larry.
Thanks for joining in, Larry.
You bet. Bye.
Bye. Yeah. So anyway, it's that was a decision that was made. We're sending CD-ROM, USB CD-ROM drives to each school for checkout, so they'll have 5 or 6 available.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just work around it. I mean, the future is CD DVD less, right? They're just
Pretty much. I mean, when you have all these instant videos and archives and everybody and their brother, including Library of Congress, Archive.org, all your open source all your schools with their videos open, why do we need a CD or DVD?
Yeah, no, it's a mind shift, and there's a lot of that going on at the moment. So it's interesting. But hey, I think we've been talking for about an hour, and maybe Larry's departure.
A little bit
is a good time
over.
for us
We're,
to-
I think,
yeah.
8:20 to stuff. We
Well,
never.
we haven't talked in a while. It's hard to get together now. It's just everything's busy. But maybe because of the summertime rush is over, and oh my goodness, it is already October.
Well,
Next week.
SETPA's coming up.
SEPA is coming up, so
Yeah,
maybe we can do a live broadcast from there.
Yeah, that'll be something. We're a couple things I've been thinking about, and I wanted to talk to Kristen Swanson about this. Is the EdCamp takeoff, but doing something for tech ed people, more than
More
technology.
tech ed than ed tech?
Pretty
No,
much.
more tech ed than ed. You mean
More
like
tech.
an ed camp for tech people?
Pretty much.
Oh, dude, let's do it.
We should do one. And the other one I wanted to talk about and maybe hit up is a ed camp for admin.
We just did one in Palo Alto. Actually,
Mhm.
I got to go to that one. It was actually pretty good. A lot of good principal input.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking, because I'm talking to other principals and site administrators here, and
It's actually look up EdCamp Lead.
okay, that's what.
They've had 2 now, I think, and those were the focus was principals. Yeah, you should run one in the Central Valley. I think it would be good.
All right, I was thinking about, especially with the technology component, just for, I'll see how that runs. Or we can always use our campus.
Yeah, no, that would be cool. Well, hey, you should come out October 27th at the Santa Clara County Office of Ed. They're doing an ed tech thing.
Okay.
And actually, Kristen Swanson is the keynote. So,
Okay. Well, shoot me a link.
all right, I'll remember to do that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, well, cool. Yeah, you're going to be at SEPA then?
Yes, I'll be at
All
second.
right. So, for anybody who's not in California listening, SEPA is the California Educational Technology Professionals Association, and their annual conference is happening in November, and Mike and I will both be there. And actually, I signed up. There's a leadership summit the day before that I actually just signed up for. So,
I'll have to check that out, because maybe I can use the one as my part of my admin cohort thing.
yeah, they just sent the link out, I think, last week. So
Yeah, I saw that. I just haven't looked at my email. Oh, we just moved to Vault last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I was perusing that, so that was interesting. I like the fact that you now have indefinite archiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's basically how I've set mine up.
Yeah.
It's forever. They still haven't had. I still don't see the doc archiving feature set come out yet, which they were supposed to have like 2 years ago. But anyway.
Well, next time we talk, because I came off of a technology and law conference on Thursday.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah, there was some interesting components about what is considered archivable and what you should hang on to.
Well, I mean, every policy I've seen says email is not an archiving system. If you want to keep something, you should put it in another system that is an archiving system. So
yeah,
we can talk about that later.
Tell legal people about that.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, cool.
All right.
All right, so this has been another episode of Small School Big Tech. We'll try to make them a little bit more frequent.
And shorter, maybe?
And maybe, shorter. I don't know. Small School Big Tech has historically been a rambling podcast of about an hour plus, so we'll see. All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Well, Mike McBoo is IT Director for LeGrand Union High School District, and you are on Twitter
At All Your Baser.
And you have, I don't know, do you have a blog? Probably.
I have a blog someplace.
You probably don't use it.
Check us out on connectedlearner.com. I have a blog feed towards there.
There you go. And our special surprise guest today was Larry Rigo, IT Director for Hillmar Unified. And he is at Larry Rigo on Twitter. And I suggest you follow him if you're interested in kind of small school, big tech thinking. Because around technology integration, he still is at a small school and doing very creative things. I'm Andrew Schwab. I'm CTO for Union School District in San Jose, which is a little bit bigger than Mike's or Larry's.
Well, you're a small school and we're a micro school, then we.
Something like that, yeah. I think the CDE or the folks in Sacramento consider 5,400 or 5,500 small still, which I find ironic. To me, it's massively huge. But yeah, and I can be found blogging at anotherschwab.com or on Twitter at anotherschwab. I also have another podcast called Reboot Ed Podcast, which I do every once in a while, again, with my co-host over there, and we talk about to interesting people, it seems, more often than not. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you for another episode, and I will roll the music.